Again, welcome back to Metric Hub, our best YouTube channel for all subjects from grade 8 up till grade 12, and soon we'll be doing tertiary subjects. Thank you again for coming back. And right now, again, if you remember, we did the first part where we were talking about entrepreneurship and the definition of entrepreneurship and the key elements, or rather the key points. And then we're heading into the functions of the business. So this is part 2 of the functions of the business. And without wasting any further time, but also remember to like, share, and subscribe. So let's go into it. So if you rather remember the definition, or rather the description of what the functions of the business are, is that they are the key operational areas. They are the key operational areas or departments. Remember, we were talking about Duduzi's bakery shop, where there's the owner, there's the manager, there are workers, and there are general workers, and there's logistics that work together to ensure that the business runs smoothly. All those 5 elements need to operate together so that the business can achieve its success. So in terms of satisfying the client, or consumer, or client, or the customer, and creating employment, generating profit, and contributing to economic development, which is what economic growth. Now, let's start here. Remember that each function of the business plays a specific role. Remember all those 5 functions. Let's rather put them again up here so that you'll always remember them. Remember, this is Mduduzi's. If you remember the part 1, if you were listening into part 1, you'll know that Mduduzi is the business that we'll be using to define, or rather explain, the functions of the business. Mduduzi's bakery, right? Where we had what? The owner as Mdu. We had the manager. We had our employees, the people who are actually baking, and say bakers. And we had our general workers, people who clean. And lastly, we had logistics, right? So these would be our transportation. So if you look at what the explanation of what the different kinds of business functions, what you see here is rather different. So you have your owner, which is one department. You have again your manager, which will be another department. Then your employees will be another department, general worker, and so forth, right? So these are 5 different departments. So as we move along here, it says that each function plays a specific role. So all these 5 functions will play a role. All right? In doing what? What do these roles do? In supporting the business, 1, in supporting the business. And secondly, in what? In helping the entrepreneur, in helping do make informed decisions. So remember, we were talking about calculated risks. Before you take this risk, you need to know what is happening. So for you to know what is happening, right? For you to take a calculated risk, what needs to happen? For you to take a calculated risk, what needs to happen? For you to take a calculated risk or informed decision, you need to know what functions in a business, right? So these functions, these are key operational areas, these functions will help you do what? Will help you take these calculated or informed decisions. For you to take a calculated or informed decision, you need to know what? Know your functions. Functions in the business. So if you look at it in these terms, Mduduzi needs to know as the owner of the bakery, what he needs to do. So that's knowing the function, the first function, right? That's knowing the first. The second function, he needs to know how the manager operates or treats the employees. You see how the manager controls the funds or whether the owner or the manager controls. So he needs to know also how the manager operates. Thirdly, how these workers are doing. Are they fine? Are they happy working there? Are they, you know what I mean? Are they doing the job as according to the job description? So as an entrepreneur, you need to, so all these functions will help you make all those informed decisions about what? About the business. So without wasting time, let's go into the first function. Remember, we're only doing 8 main functions, right? We're doing 8 main functions of the business, right? So the first one will be the purchasing function. The purchasing function. So what the business buys. The purchasing function. What do we as the baker, as Mduduzi's baker, what are we buying? Right? As it goes further, it says the purchasing function is responsible for buying raw materials. Remember our raw materials, because we're a bakery shop, it will be our sugar, our flour, our salt, the things that will actually help us make the product, right? The goods will be in terms of like, how are we going to be helped? What are we going to use for these raw materials? Now that we have our flour, right? Now that we have our flour, where are we going to use those flours, right? This one will be flour, baking flour, right? And then the goods will be the baskets, or rather the utensils. Utensils. We will need to now turn these raw materials into product. Or services. Our services will be in terms of like if we need washing products from outside. So we need to buy those essential things so that the business can function. We cannot always bake with dirty utensils or baskets. We need to buy other things to help us. Again, let's say now we are a big company. Another service would be like having a lawyer, in terms of what? In terms of if our business goes, but that's more if our business is broad and has grown. If Mduduzi's bakery is now a national business, right? So remember, the business is responsible for buying raw materials, goods, or services that the business needs to produce. So what are we producing in our sense of Mduduzi's bakery? What are we producing? Huh? We said we're doing cakes and scones. So we need to purchasing function, what the business buys. What are we buying as a business so that our business can function and propel? What are we buying, right? And the second part is that as we buy, we need to ensure that the business gets good or quality goods at the best price and on time. So if we're gonna buy our flour, we need to make sure that this flour is of the best quality, meaning when we bake our cakes, people won't complain about the texture or maybe the taste. So we need to buy quality things. Goods, baskets, where we buy these things, are they gonna last us for a while? Do you understand? So ensuring the business gets quality goods, quality simply meaning that it's of the best of its own. So when we buy these products, we need to make sure that our customers will get the best outcome from what we have bought. So we need to be careful of what we buy. All right. And again, here it says on time. It says here on time. So it's more of like the business that we work with needs to be, rather, they need to value time. They need to always be on time because we are running a business. And if they are late, that means our business will be late too. Such a good example. So a bakery buying flour, sugar, and packaging materials. As I said, Mduduzi's bakery. Right? So basically, that's the whole explanation or idea what a purchasing function is. So Mduduzi needs to make sure that when he sets out a decision to the manager, he needs to tell them, okay, this is the amount of money that we're going to use, and this is how much you should spend on certain products, and you need to buy good quality products. So number one, the first main function of the business would be the purchasing part, what the business buys. All right. Let's move on to the second one, the production function. Production function. Right? What does it mean? Simply means, okay, let's just do this. Good. Good, good, good. The second function is the production function is producing now. Now we're in the process of producing this product. What is our product? Cakes and scones. Cakes and scones. Now we're turning those raw materials into products now. Cakes and scones. All right. So the production function involves turning raw materials, your flour, your sugar, your salts, and whatnot, into finished goods and services, which are cakes and scones. Example, in our sense, so I don't want to use these other examples. Mduduzi will turn the, so let's just rather put it here and say production function. This is the second function. So this is where we turn flour, sugar, salt, milk, right? What are these? These are our raw materials, all right? These are our raw materials. Into what? Into scones, cakes, and muffins, and bread, right? And these will be our finished products. So these will be our finished product. These will be our raw materials, and this is rather the what? The process which goes from this to this. I hope you understand that, right? Here, they give you an example of a clothing business, but we are focusing on Mduduzi's bakery, right? So, in the production function, you need to ensure that efficient use of resources so that you can produce quality products. So, the amount of efficient use, efficient use, meaning amount of flour you use needs to make quality cakes. The amount of flour you use needs to make quality cakes. So that's what it essentially says. You need to ensure that you use your your raw materials to your best advantage so that you can make quality products. All right, so that's the second function. That's the second function. The first function was the purchasing function, where you buy products or rather raw materials to produce your final goods. So we buy the flour so that we can make the cakes. The second one is the production. Now we turn what we've bought, now we're going to turn into a product. Now we turn it into the cakes. And then the third function is the marketing function. The third function is the marketing function. Now, this is you letting people know about your product. Letting people know about your product. That's basically what marketing is. So you let people know what you are selling. So it says here, marketing function, it creates awareness of the business's products or services and persuades people to buy them. Persuade meaning first you introduce and then you make people like your product, right? Persuade is to make people like your product. Make people like your product. Like you convince them. You convince them to like your product. And then it says here, the marketing function includes advertising, which could be your billboards, which would be your radio advertisement, TV advertisement, any way that you can get people to know about your product. That is called advertising. The second one is market research. Market research simply means finding out. Remember, when we go back to the definition of what entrepreneurship is, you need to satisfy a need or find an opportunity within what? Within a market, right? So for now, we are focusing on what? Baker. So what does it mean when we research our market? Do the people of the area need bread? Do you understand me? Do they need bread? Do they need cakes? Is it hard for them to get these products? So that is what market research is all about. Making sure that you understand, what do the people of the area that you want to sell, what do they need? Do they really need? Is it a necessity? Meaning, do they go far away? Like, for instance, if you live in an area where there's no petrol, it means that that area is a need to have a pet. So you do your market research, right? Can or will you be able to sell that product? And then the third one would be promotion. Promoting. Now, promoting is all about promoting. Promoting. Hey, what's happening now? Promoting. Let's just quickly do this. Promoting. It's all getting your product to the people. Example would be sending out flyers. So what's the difference between advertising and promoting? So promoting is instant. It happens now. So if we go door to door and show people and give them a sample of our cakes, that we are promoting the product. We are doing it now. But rather, advertisement is done within a period of time. Like I said, your billboards. So the billboard will be or in the streets for about 3 to 6 months, depending on how much you paid for the billboard. But promotion happens now and it's rather less or rather not expensive. So you won't spend much on promotions, but you spend more on advertising. And then lastly, it's pricing. Now telling people how much your cakes are so that you can again do what? Persuade, convince the people to buy your product, right? And then lastly, the marketing function the marketing function ensures the business understands and responds to customer needs. When we go back to the definition, it will always come back to in order to satisfy the need of who? Of the customer. The need of who? The customer. Right? You need to always remember that need of the customer or the consumer. And then we move on to our fourth function, which is the financial function. Which is the what? The financial function, okay? Sorry about the financial function. So when we talk about the financial function, we talk about what? The money. Remember, as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to organize resources like money, people. You remember that you need to be able to organize resources like money, people, and materials. Money. You need to be able to handle money. You cannot be running a business if you don't know how to take care of money. Right? So the financial function involves money. So it says here, one, the entrepreneur will manage all money-related matters of the business. So depending whether or not Mduduzi gave that power to the manager or himself, but this person will manage all money-related matters, which will be, it can be investments, it can be loans, it can be capital, it can be income, it can be what? Wages. You see here, all money-related matters, all money-related. So everything that involves money will run past by this person who is responsible for managing the financial function. And the second one, it includes budgeting, recording income, and expenses. So in most in most large businesses, they will use an accountant for these functions, for budgeting, recording income and expenses, and managing profits and loans. So they'll use an accountant. Now the accountant will be responsible for the financial function. All right. And then the last one, the financial function helps entrepreneurs plan growth and stay financially healthy. Again, as I said, you cannot be an entrepreneur if you don't know how to handle money. If you don't see where your money is going, you cannot spend recklessly. You need to account for every cent, whether in investments, in loans, in capital, income, or wages. Right? Okay. So now those are your 4 functions. One, the first function being the purchasing function, what you buy for the business. It's not what people buy from your business, it's what you buy for the business. Right? The second one will be the production function. It's the process of turning raw materials into finished goods. So we turn our cake, our flour, our milk into cakes and scones. The third one will be the marketing function, right? Third one will be the marketing function. How do we now let people know our business? Now we have a business. Here's our business. How do we let people know our business? By marketing the product or the business so that people can be aware of our business. All right. And then the fourth one will be the financial function, all money related matters. Your investments, your loans, capital, income, and wages. So for now, we're going to be doing the 4 functions so that you can take a breather and understand these 4 functions well enough, right? So those are the 4 functions. Number 1, it's your purchasing function. Number 2, your production function. Number 3, marketing function. 4, financial function. So come back again for part 3 so that we can discuss all these business functions so that you can be well prepared for your September tests and exams. And again, guys, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.